Hello everyone, this is Adelaide Eternal and you're with Sarvan McClinton bringing you some more Australian Highlander deck discussion with 7 overviews of 7 more Highlander archetypes. So this is to help Aussies who are just getting started with the format, deciding your deck, but also to help those existing players to learn more about this diverse metagame. And if you're interested in any of these 7 decks that we overview here, just comment below with the name of the deck and we'll dedicate an entire 7-minute deck tech to it in an upcoming 7-minute 7-point video. Now, let's continue with Blue-Black Timevolt. So, in Blue-Black Timevolt, obviously Timevolt is your key win condition, and the majority of your interaction with your opponent is going to be on the stack. So, it has a very diverse counterspell suite, but when in a bad situation, you can always pull out Fatal Push or Go for the Throat just to destroy that key creature. You can use cards like Muddle the Mixture to transmute into your key combo piece, and that's obviously Timevolt, but you can use Tezzeret the Seeker and he actually searches out Timevolt and untaps it, giving you infinite turns. So whilst infinite turns is your primary win con, I have seen a game or two won by that single creeping tar pit after a damnation going the distance. The next deck we'll talk about is Green-White Midrange. So this is basically a dude deck, and it's all about getting a bunch of little creatures that progressively become bigger and bigger as you work your way up from 1-drops like Noble Hierarch and Deathrite Shaman through to the 2-drops, Fleecemane Lion and Khazali Pride Mage, all the way up to Titania at 5, and sometimes you see Sun Titan as well in these decks. So you can play the mid-range game, but you can also play the aggro game because you have the Strip Mine and Wasteland package to occasionally keep your opponent off their mana and swing for lethal. The next deck we'll talk about is the blue-red tempo deck that is the closest to its original modern version. So it's basically Tempo Twin, a deck that uses tempo cards like Pestamite and Venser Shaper Savant to beat face for 2 over the course of a number of turns whilst controlling the game. One of your best ways to control the game is obviously landing a Blood Moon or a Back to Basics or a Magus of the Moon, and incidentally the last one also beats for 2. There is a number of improvements over the original modern version because you get gassed up cards like Factual Fiction, you get the banned in modern Dig Through Time, and you have Dak Faden to power out Dig Through Time. And the new addition, of course, in the Tempo suite is Torrential Gearhulk, which is a pretty big beater and comes down at instant speed. There's the sub-theme of Riptide Laboratory, which is a wizard theme, and it allows you to reuse cards like Venser Shaper Savant for value and tempo. Next, we'll talk about the Reanimated deck. So this has a number of various iterations, but the most common is the Grixis version. So this one, basically you're looking at seeing some way to filter your hand, discard fatties whilst drawing cards that reanimate them, like Animate Dead and Reanimate. Some of the fatties that you might see coming out of this deck are things like Ashen Rider to exile a pesky permanent, and also Grizzlebrand to just keep drawing your way through the deck. Bazaar of Baghdad is the most powerful unpointed card in this deck. It really is the best filter you could find, and if you have this in your opening hand, you're set up very well. Second to that, you have Collective Brutality, which does double or even triple overtime, because you can often employ all of its modes, especially against those aggro decks that when you need to kill a Goblin Guide and gain life, and also strip some kind of interaction from their hand. Next, we'll talk about the Black-Red Shops deck. So this is very similar to the Built from Scrap deck, which we featured in a previous overview video. However, the addition of black gives you 2 pretty crucial cards. First of all, there's the second Duretti, which is a Black-Red Duretti, and it gives you a fair deal of value, allowing you to sacrifice some of the artifacts that you have that are no longer pulling their weight and destroying relevant targets. But most importantly, the black edition is Mind Twist. So this was recently reduced in its point value, and decks like this love to power out a Mind Twist on turn 2, sometimes turn 1, and basically strip their opponent's entire hand. Next, we'll talk about the tempo deck that is referred to as Phantasmal Bant. This is a Bant deck, so it's green, white, and blue, and uses a variety of great 1-drop tempo cards that have 2 power, like Dryad Militant, Isamaru Hound of Conda, and Loam Lion. You'll be familiar with these, but you might not be familiar with its recent edition, which is Phantasmal Bear. So this has actually been around for a long time, but now it's actually finding space as a good 2 power 1-drop, allowing you to beat really early. In addition, you have a great counter suite, and usually the counters are either free, so for example daze, or they are used to gain tempo, like Remand. But one of the best cards in the deck is the iconic Bant Charm. Not only is it a counter, countering a removal spell, but it also functions as a removal spell itself by getting rid of creatures, but also getting rid of artifacts, which are very prevalent in the format. You can also leverage Grafted War Gear in this deck because it allows you to bash for a serious amount of damage continuously. The last deck I'll talk about is Value Junk. So this is a mid-range deck that uses dorks to power out our 3-drops on turn 2 and also our 4-drops on turn 3, making it very hard for opponents to keep up with your value plan. So everything other than the dorks and the occasional removal spell simply produce value. So Blade Splicer and Strangleroot Geist, Siege Rhino, and then Restoration Angel to buy back any of those previously mentioned value cards are absolutely disgusting. When you add to that Skull Clamping a Blade Splicer or a Strangleroot Geist again and bashing in for 3 is just pure value. If it doesn't produce value in this deck, then it has to just be amazing to be pushed over the threshold. So cards like Anafen's the Foremost, because it can turn off opponents' Skull Clamps as a one-sided effect, but also buff your own dorks, making them relevant later in the game, allows that card to be pushed over the edge and added into a value deck. So if you're interested in one of these 7 decks that we overviewed here, just comment below with the name of the deck and we'll dedicate another full 7-minute deck tech to it in one of the upcoming 7-minute 7-point video series. Thanks for watching.